I thought it would be cool to do some deep dives on the modules in my eurorack modular synth system. And I want to start with this thing right here. This is the acronym by a company called Worng. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Never heard anybody say it out loud. But this is a VCO, which stands for voltage controlled oscillator. If you're new to modular synthesis, that just means that it's the part of the system that generates a sound. So right now, we can hear what it sounds like. So it's got some knobs. Two of them are for tuning. This changes the shape of the wave that it's generating, or the, sort of sound that's coming out of it. This turns up the sub bass, which is a square wave. And then this is for, I think it's phase modulation. Normally you would see frequency modulation, but I believe on this one it's phase modulation. As you can see on the font, it's like not super, it does look like a P, doesn't it? We're gonna say phase modulation. It changes the shape of the waveform. Like these three knobs here are just changing the shape of a waveform to get some more interesting sounds. Like what we're hearing right now is a triangle wave, which is a very simple waveform. Then if we turn this, we can, now it's a square wave. Turn it some more to the right. Now it's a saw wave. And then all the way to the right, I think it's another kind of saw wave. So different shapes of waves can come out of this, and each wave has its own kind of characteristics. Triangle wave sounds very smooth. Square sounds like that. Now, I'm sure you're noticing. Here, let me sweep through that one more time. So it's easy to notice that when it's sweeping through the different shapes of waveforms, there's some cool kind of like transitionary sounds in there. Especially between these two waves on the far right, the two different saw waves. That's because, unlike a lot of oscillators, on this one, instead of only being able to get one wave shape at a time, this one is able to smoothly morph in between the different wave shapes. This knob is actually called the wave-morphing knob. And so that's kind of a, I mean, there are other oscillators that do that, but it is a unique and nice feature to have because I can take the output from here and be able to get whatever wave shape that I want without necessarily needing to, plug it into the, okay, if I want a triangle, I have to plug it into the triangle. If I want a sine, I have to plug it into the sine wave. I just leave it plugged into the wave and can take what I want from there. This thing is very easy to tune. And, this is the tuning knob here. And so once you get it close to the pitch you're looking for, this is the fine tuning, and you can get it dialed in really fast. This knob here controls the sub bass, which is a square wave pitched 2 octaves down from whatever we're hearing right now. if you want to hear what the sub bass sounds like on its own, we can plug into here. That's just the square wave that's pitched 2 octaves down from the main pitch. Now, we can also get one that's only 1 octave down. So that's 1 octave down, 2 octaves down. And then this would be the main one. Main pitch, 1 octave down, 2 octaves down. And then here's the blend. Pretty cool, right? Well, there are some ways to mess with the sound to make it more complex. So, to start, let's do some of this phase modulation, which is this thing right here. So what I'm going to do is take the 2 octave down sub bass, which is a square wave, and plug it into this. And now, this sub bass is modulating the phase of the waveform. Basically what that means is this square wave is forcing the triangle wave, or whichever wave we choose, to reset on the peaks. If that doesn't make sense, it doesn't matter because we don't, see what the wave looks like when we're listening to the music. Does it sound cool or not? And so far, so good. So, without the phase modulation, with the phase modulation. And we can also modulate the phase with these other waveforms. Or, we could take some other sound source or like literally anything and plug it into here and get some different results. But for now, just to keep it simple, I'm going to only use these waveforms that are coming from the oscillator itself. So that's not all that we get with the phase modulation. This knob kind of adjusts how it's modulating. So So even though it's an analog mono oscillator, you can get some very complex waveforms out of it, which just makes it sound more interesting. When I'm actually making music with this, obviously you're not just going to hear the oscillator open the whole time at the same pitch. So let me at least get some kind of pitch sequence being sent to this. Okay, now things are getting a little more interesting because I'm sending some pitch voltage into here to give it some sort of melodic sequence, but it's just sending random pitches to it. This is just a random pitch sequence. And it's cool because you can kind of set the wave-morph knob somewhere in between waves to really get it dialed into what sounds cool to you. Now, to make it even weirder, let's see. Let's send control voltage to the wave morphing thing. So we're going to kind of automate, basically, you know, like instead of turning this knob manually, I'm going to automate that and make the synth do the work for me. Now that is an interesting sounding oscillator. So I feel like with this demo, it's easy to see why this is my go-to oscillator. Like every patch that I make is really centered on the sound of this thing, just because it is so easy to get something that just sounds insane. And it's, I don't have anything else on here that makes anything sound quite like this. Do you see how the lights here are kind of like it's lighting up both sides of it at the same time? That's because I'm sending it a voltage that it's not, that's like outside of its range, but because it's an analog module, it doesn't break it. It just causes it to kind of do something unexpected. That's what's cool about an analog synth, is that if you tell it to do something that it's not expecting you to tell it, it'll still do something. Like, you can't break it. It just will behave in a way that's kind of unexpected. Well, that is the Worng Acronym voltage controlled oscillator right here. I love this thing. Stick around for other videos. I'm going to dive into each of these modules kind of individually and try to show all the features. I didn't get into the sync on this because I wanted to just focus on this, and we'll have to get another module involved, but that's another thing. We'll get to sync later in another video because that's a whole fucking can of worms. All right, take it easy.